Zuck, how are you, man? How's life?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good, man. How you been?
All right. We had a lot of rain in Cincinnati, and now I see that it followed me back home.
Oh, yeah.
I felt bad just seeing the tweets of like the constant rain delays and games getting moved around. But still, I would say, Nats took 2 out of 3. They hit pretty well in the 2 wins. They're 3 games under 500, coming home with a little bit of interleague play set up over the next couple of days with Cleveland coming to town. Generally, we'll start big picture. Generally, people got to feel pretty good about what Washington's doing right now.
Yeah, I think if you can step back and look at the bigger picture, absolutely. There's some encouraging stuff going on. And let's remember, they started the year, they had a terrible opening week. They were 1-6.
Mm-hmm.
So since then, they're 15-13. So you're over 500 since then. And a good number of those losses are games that were lost because of the bullpen. So, obviously it's an important part of the team. You can't just discount that. But if you just stabilize that a bit, and they have in the last 4 days or so, the bullpen has pitched well. I think there's potential here for this to flip a little bit. They're playing very competitive baseball, and it just boils down to a lot of these close games. Can they get that one hit they need to take the lead? Can they get the bullpen to close it out for them? The starting pitching has been very good across the board. They're beating good teams. They have a winning record against teams that are over 500. They've actually struggled some against the lesser teams for whatever reason. So there is stuff to be encouraged by. They're not there yet, obviously, but I feel like these are kind of fine-tuning things. These are little things they need to clean up. They do that, I think they're going to be in position to start winning more games than they lose.
Mark, is that something that we have to focus on? I mean, you said about the bullpen, and you've had some bullpen struggles for some time here. How do they get that to a point where they know they can count on it?
Well, the good news, BMitch, is as of last night, they no longer have the highest bullpen ERA in baseball. They've surpassed the Angels. They're now 29th instead of 30th. So there you go. Progress. No, what's happened is a few things. Kyle Finnegan had his 2 blown saves, but he brushed those off, came back, and was good. Jorge Lopez, an important guy they signed to be their setup man, he got off to a really bad April. He's had now 5 straight scoreless appearances, looks more like himself, who he was supposed to be all along. That's important. And then they did make one fairly significant switch during the road trip. They cut ties with Colin Poche, who just never could throw strikes for whatever reason. They DFA'd him, and they signed this guy, Andrew Chafin. Wait till you guys see him. He is straight out of Central Casting. He is Kenny Powers from Eastbound and Down, like in real life. And he has a track record. He's made 600 big league appearances. He's been all over the place over his career. He's only pitched 1 so far, but he faced 2 batters in a big spot the other night in Cincinnati, struck them both out. This is a guy who can help stabilize things. And so all of a sudden, it's looking a little bit better there. Again, they need to do this for more than 4 days. You got to spend this over a longer stretch. But I don't think anybody truly believed they were going to be as bad as they were in that first month. It would be hard to have a 7 ERA as a group for a whole season. So if that just gets to be better, it doesn't have to be great, but just better, I think they start winning some of these closer games.
One thing that's really helped them is, and I don't mean day to day, right? Because there's obviously good games, bad games, but the starting pitching has been really pretty good. We're talking with our friend Mark Zuckerman, from Masson Sports here on the Rude Guest Hotline. Zuck, I mean, Mackenzie Gore, I'm just looking at his wins above replacement. Now you get into May, this is like we're actually into the season. Like the results aren't maybe skewed by like one good or bad performance. Is Gore starting to have the kind of games, the type of performances? I mean, obviously the strikeout numbers are significant that everybody kind of had hoped and expected with a player of his caliber.
Yeah, I mean, he leads the league in strikeouts now, and he's doing that while also hardly walking anybody. He finally walked 4 guys yesterday, and 3 of them came in the 5th inning when it was just a downpour, and they tried to play through it. And at one point there, prior to that inning, he had a 7-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio for the season. So I looked this up to see, has any Nats ever done that before? The only guy who's ever done it, a qualified starter who pitched a full season, was Max Scherzer. Okay. Now there's a long way to go. It's a little over 1 month, so he has to show he can do this for 6 months. But that tells you just how dominant he's been so far. And while there've been, a couple of those really outstanding games like opening day, to me, the more impressive thing is a game like yesterday when he's pitching well, but he's got some guys on base, and then he has to deal with that downpour in the fifth inning. He's got runners on base. He slips at one point, falls down, and he gets through it, and he ends up going 5 innings, giving up the 1 run. That, to me, is the big step that he's taken, where a year ago, that might spiral out of control on him, and all of a sudden he's given up 4 runs instead. And now he's able to limit the damage and keep it to 1. So even on the days when not everything's exactly perfect how you want it to be, to still be that effective, I think that's what is helping him kind of develop into a true ace right now.
Mark, I'm old fashioned. I still look at ERA and batting average. I know those stats are lame now, but I still look at those. In 8 starts, Gore is averaging 13 strikeouts per 9. Now he's not always getting to 9, depending on how long he goes. And his ERA is 3.3 through. I am Zuck. I'll be honest with you. I am more encouraged by Gore than I expected to be. I kind of last year I thought it was pretty up and down, and I wondered if he would deliver on the hype that had surrounded him. And this year's the first month of the season, 6 weeks, whatever it is, has been so encouraging. I think.
Yeah, no, he has taken that next step, and he's always been touted as the potential ace. But as you said, inconsistency was a huge part of that. That the reason that he hadn't got there yet, and so that's what I'm talking about. These nights, you're not going to have everything working for you every time you take the ball. It'd be great if you can, but you're not always going to have that. So what do you do with those starts when you're not at 100% or the conditions aren't 100%? Can you find a way to still be successful? That's what makes the great ones great. And so far, he's been able to do that, and that allows him to have those numbers you're talking about. And I mean, again, long way to go. But right now, when you consider what Gore has done, what James Wood is doing, what C.J. Abrams is doing, that trade's looking okay at the moment, huh?
Well, dude, when do we start to have a real conversation about Jake Irvin and Mitchell Parker? B and I proclaimed Mitchell Parker our guy last year, so we're just kind of riding with him at this point. Yeah. But like these dudes are now over a big period of time showing that they are legitimate major league starters, and maybe in Parker's case, maybe more.
So they both, I think their biggest strength right now is they are just bulldogs, and they're going to give you 6 and even 7 innings at times and take the ball every 5th day and give you a chance to win. And that's an important thing to have. They may not be number 1 starters, anything like that.
Right.
But they're guys you have to have in a good rotation, the innings eaters, the workhorses, bulldogs, whatever you want to call that. Now, Parker was great for the first month, and in his last 2 starts, all of a sudden he's starting to walk guys. And that has been the number one thing he's avoided since coming up last year. He was pretty down on himself the other night for struggling with that. They're trying to work on some things, figure out what the issue is. I think it's mechanical more than anything else. So he does need to clean that up. But if he can, he is showing that he is a guy who's going to give you a chance. Not always going to be, dazzle you, but you're going to look up at the end of the night and say, man, he went 6 innings, gave up 2 or 3 runs, gave us a chance to win. That's important stuff to have. Behind a number 1, you need those middle of the rotation guys who can do that.
And as this thing continues, I mean, we talk about the pitching and the bullpen. I'm sorry, B. I try to play it cool, but eventually I just want to get to James Wood.
James Wood, yes, but I mean he's doing great. But I'm saying Dylan Cruz, what is going on with Dylan?
There we go.
That one hasn't gone as well as you would hope. Yeah, so far.
But you don't think it's a problem, though?
Well, he is still kind of swinging at a lot of stuff, a lot of slop. Their teams have figured out, they don't throw him a lot of fastballs. He chases pitches out of the zone. So there is that, and that's something he's going to have to figure out. He just went through 2 slumps. It was 0 for 23 on the road trip. He finally got the hit yesterday, and it was 0 for 22 on the season with runners in scoring position. And he snapped that one with that same hit. So maybe that's a little something to get him going. He's still got to figure this out. And I think what everyone keeps cautioning here is he was rushed through the minor leagues. He made it to the big leagues within a year. He still has very little overall professional experience. And I know we've been spoiled here by so many prospects over the years who've come up and been gangbusters right away. It doesn't always work that way. It usually doesn't work that way. I think the good news is they're giving him time to figure it out. I don't think they're putting pressure on him. The other thing that I think that stands out about him that's important to note, and I think bodes well in the long run, no matter what he's doing at the plate, he's played outstanding defense, and he runs the bases really well too. And I think that's important to note because, especially for a young player, you can take your troubles from one part of your game to the other part of your game, and he's done a really nice job of separating those things. And I think that shows the just maturity and overall quality of player that they think he's going to be, is that he's not going to let his offensive struggles affect the other parts of his game.
Okay.
Is it with Cruz? Because early on, it's early, man. He'll get there. Now we're 6 weeks in, and it seemed like there was like a little bit of a bright spot there, and then there were these slumps again. Is there any sort of timeline where like people get worried, or is it not even this year?
No, I think if he were to do this all year, then you do have some concerns, of course. And would they let him go the whole season, batting under 200 and struggling like that with runners in scoring position? Maybe not. At some point, they would maybe say, okay, it's time to take a break, send him down and work on things. But I don't think they're there yet, obviously. And because you do see glimpses of it that tell you, okay, he does have this ability, clearly. I mean, there's a reason he was so highly touted. You don't just get that kind of reputation and be picked that high in the draft without obviously having the ability and everything else. He probably just needs to settle down a little bit. I'm sure he's feeling it himself. He's an intense competitor. I'm sure he's never struggled to this extent anywhere that he's ever played in his life. And so I think that part of it is maybe even a bigger challenge for him. Just like calm down, trust your instincts, trust your natural abilities. You're going to start to figure this out and you'll be okay. But yeah, there is a point where you do start to worry more. I don't think they're there yet, but it's not an endless rope where they would say, okay, you're going to play all season no matter how it goes.
For sure. How about CJ? Because he's playing really well, and I think
they got a little young nucleus there, man.
Dude, what I think we're all trying to figure out is they're playing pretty good. Davey deserves a lot of credit because they kind of tend to start slow and then start playing really well, and we're seeing that again. But Zuck, I'll be honest, just as an outsider that wasn't, I don't know, the ins and outs of day-to-day life in the clubhouse. But when CJ got in trouble in Chicago and was at the casino at 8 a.m. and there was a game at 1 that afternoon, and I think they kind of gave him some time off, how important is it that he has started well this year, and it seems like there's none of that type of stuff popping up?
Yeah, no, that was huge. And, honestly, all off season, I kept thinking this is the number one storyline with the team. Is he going to come back and be the guy he was supposed to be? And just talking about him as a player, like forget about any off the field stuff, but is he going to respond to this whole thing well, come back and play well like he did the first half of last year when he was an all-star? And the answer is yes, he absolutely has. He addressed the issue in spring training. He's done everything right since then. And most importantly, he's come out and played really well for them. And he's on a 10-game hitting streak right now. It's obviously James Wood's their best hitter, but it does feel like when C.J. Abrams is going well, the team goes well. There's something to that. I think it's the reason he bats leadoff for them. You look up his numbers in their wins versus losses, or when he was out for a little bit on the IL a little while ago. I think there's a real correlation there that when he's going well, this team goes well. And I do see a more mature, just kind of focused kid who wants to be the player that we saw he was last year in the first half, which is, an all-star, a truly all-around great shortstop in this game. And I think he knows he can be that if he keeps his head on right and, and works at his game and fine-tunes everything.
Well, to that point, what you said earlier about the trade. So of their position players, Abrams and Wood have the highest wins above replacement of everybody. And then of their pitchers, Gore has the highest wins above replacement of everybody. So there definitely are some young pieces there. Are Davey and Rizzo, how's everybody getting along? Like, is anybody frustrated? Do they feel pretty good? Just the overall vibe with them coming back home now. They got the day game on Wednesday. Like, you're far enough into the grind of the season that if there are any chafing or anything, like it would start to show, right?
Sure. And I think, that first month when you got the bullpen losing games the way they were, that can lead to some bad stuff, of course. And to their credit, I didn't see any signs of that. And it reminds me of 2019 when obviously that star-studded team was losing games early because of the bullpen, and it could have fractured the clubhouse, and it did not. And it wound up in glorious fashion in the end. And I think that is a credit to the manager who has done such a good job over the years of keeping everybody together and just focusing on, hey, go 1-0 today and don't worry about any of the other stuff. So there is that. And, they opened that road trip with a crazy game in Philadelphia. They rallied from behind to take the lead, and then Finnegan blew at the bottom of the ninth. And the mood in the clubhouse that night was about as down as I've seen it in a long time. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it in a good way, because that told me that this team now believes that it should be winning these kind of games, that it's not enough to say, hey, we battled back and good for us. Like, no, they were in a position to beat a good team on the road. They didn't, and they felt really bad about that. I think you're going to see more of that kind of stuff now. The expectation level has been raised within the clubhouse for sure. They believe they're ready to start winning more games than they lose, and they're slowly creeping towards that mark. But when they do lose a game, it affects them, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I talked to CJ Abrams at the red carpet homecoming event. I forget exactly what it's called, but I think you know what I mean, like before opening day. And he said, he's like, yeah, we've heard for a long time that the Nationals are coming. Like, we like to think now we're here. And I think when you have young guys with that kind of mindset, that's at least how you want an organization to develop. Now, obviously, there's other factors, but I don't know. It's been fun watching the Curly W's. Mark, we always
appreciate you, Mark.
Appreciate you making time with us, man.
You got it. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Mark Zuckerman, give him a follow at Mark Zuckerman. He is not the dude that started Facebook.